down to sleep. Pray, Lord, my soul to keep. Hope's not too late for me. Before I lay me down to sleep. Pray, Lord, my soul to keep. Hope's not too late for me. Difference changing in the distance. Time consumes the image. Difference changing in the distance. Time consumes our image. Before I lay me down to sleep, pray the Lord my soul to keep. Hope's not too late for me. Before I lay me down to sleep, pray the Lord my soul to keep. Hope's not too late for me.
All right. Before I close my eyes, now, this is a very interesting song. I kind of learned this song a while back. It kind of just popped up on my Apple Music, and I decided to learn it. I was like, that's a pretty chill song. I like the sound. I like the feel of that. So I figured out that the song was in the key of E. So this is the scale: the 1, the 2, the 3, the 4, the 5, the 6, the 7, and then back to the 1. All right, so the song actually doesn't play the 1. It actually only plays the 4 and then the 6. But they're not just regular triads, at least that's not what I hear, and that's not what I play. It's not just the regular 4 triad. I mean, I guess you can play that on a simpler level. So if you want just the simplest possible way to play this song, you can just play the regular triad. So you can play the 4, which is an A major chord, and then I just used the 5 as a passing chord to just get to the 6. So the song really only has 2 chords. It really just goes back and forth between the 4 and then the 6, and then back to the 4 and then the 6. But if you want, you can use that 5 to, kind of have a bridge way between those 2 chords. But what I play is I play a major 9-13. I believe that's what that is. Yeah. So I play an A major 9-13 for that chord. I just think it fills it up, and it just kind of fits right for a song of this type. So I'm going to try to give a little bit of theory and background on how I stumbled upon and started to play chords big and wide like a A major 9-13. I think it sounds really, really cool. And if you want to play bigger chords and you're tired of those triads, maybe you could, try to use a chord like this or two. Now, the only way and the best way I would recommend to start to take your chords from just the triad, and then if you want to go from a triad, then to go to the 7, and then to go from the 7 to playing a 13, or maybe even if you want to play like just a regular 9 chord. Let me see how to play a 9 chord in A. I mean, in the key of E on the 4. So how I try to figure stuff like that out is I play through my scales. So here's the A major scale. Since I'm on the 4 and E, since I'm on the 4, and that's the first note, the root note of the chord that I'm trying to build upon, which is A, which is the 4 and E. I'm going to go through the scale of the note that I'm on, which is A. So that's the 1, the 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then back to the 1. So how I would figure out a chord like a A major 7 or A major 9 or 9/13, I generally will either play the 1 and the 5 in the left hand. I'll throw in the octave if it's something like this. But one thing that I figured out was helpful to me is I was just playing through my scales. I wanted to take the knowledge that I have from my scales and just try to see if I could connect a chord. So I remember one time I think I tried to like play all the notes of the scale in like one hand or something like that. So I take like that, and then since I already had the 1 in there, I just tried to play like the 2, the 3, or actually since I already have the 1, 5, and then the octave, technically this would be the 9, and then technically this would be the 10, and then because you just count up in numbers. So like if you've already got the first octave covered, those extensions from that first octave, then you just keep counting up in numbers. So if you just keep counting from the bottom, this would be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, and then 14, and then 15 technically, if you want to say it like that. I never count up that high. I generally don't go past the 13. So how I was able to figure out chords like this is I just tried to connect all those notes from the scale. So I do the octave and then the fifth in the middle, then the 2. This is how I like to think about it. The 2, the 3, to get that 9/13. I found that the 4 doesn't really, this doesn't really work. I don't like those 2 notes together, so I just decided to just skip the 4. So I had the 2, the 3, I skipped the 4 and I went to the 5, and then I did the 6, and then the 7, and then that's how I came up with that type of chord. But that all originated from my scales. So if I didn't know my scales, I wouldn't truly understand how to take that chord, that knowledge, and put that in every different key. So like the same way how I'm able to make a 9/13 in the technically in this case it would be an A, or I guess you could say the 4 of E. But let's say I wanted to make that same chord with B, okay? So if I know my scale, go ahead and do the 1, the 5, and then the octave, which I guess you can call it the 8, and then keep that same theory, the 2, or the 9, the 3, skip the 4, go to the 5, the 6, and then the 7, and then that's how I'm able to make those 9/13 chords. That was just a simple and easy process for me that seemed to make a lot of sense, and it was a way that I could always relate it back and that it wasn't super confusing. Plus, I always remember just have the 1, 5 octave, and then the 2, 3, skip 4, 5, 6, and 7. And then that's how you're able to make a chord like that. So this song, Before I Close My Eyes, is just, I kind of did it a little different this time, and I kind of really just stumbled upon this. I didn't even know at first what I was doing. I knew this chord. I knew the A major 9/13, and then I just figured out I was like, go to the 5, then to the 6. But this right here, I typically would never play a minor 7/11 on the 6 chord. I'll usually play that on like the 7 or something like that. But for the 6, usually I would play like, let me see, 4, 5, and then usually if I'm playing a minor chord, I would just play the C minor 7 in root position. But I found that for this particular song, at least, with that same like hold in your right hand, the 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, for this, if you're going from the 4 to the 6, you can keep that same shape in your right hand, and you don't even have to move your right hand to get to the 6. All you have to do is just, if you want, you go to that 5, and then you can go right back to that same shape that you had in your right hand from the 4, the 2, 3, 5, 6, 7, and then all you got to do is just move your bass, and then just put that 6 bass in the bottom. So you have the 6, and then the 5 of that 6, and then that's how you can get to the 6 chord without even having to really move your hand if you're still doing root positions. And then that works right there. So that's something that I figured out. But let me see if I can also like figure out how I make the major 9 chord. I'd be going back and forth for making that major 9 chord. I typically would just do like a full 9-13 chord, but I did figure out that if you want to make like a major 9-13 chord, you must have the 1, the 5, and typically I don't like to put the 7 in my left hand because I just think it doesn't sound as open and wide and as pure of a chord as if you just do 1, the 5, the octave. And then if you want, what you can do is you can take that 7, you can put that 7 up at the top. So typically what I'll do if I'm trying to make like a 9 chord is you take I'm going to show you like the 3 different ways. So you can build it up like this. You could just have a triad, and then if you want, I'm going to do it on the second inversion, and I'm going to let my left hand take that away, and then the 1 finger on that I'm going to do the second inversion. So you can have the regular triad, or if you want, you can do the 7. All right, that's the 7, and then to add the 9, really all you have to do to add the 9 is just with you having this 7 here. So really all I did to like make this chord is left hand doesn't change. I've got the 1, the 5, and the 8, and then the octave. So if I already have that A there down at the bottom, all you need to make a major triad is just the 1, the 3, and the 5. So since I'm already playing the 1, all I got to do is just play the 3 and the 5 in my right hand. And since I'm trying to make a 7 chord, I'll just play that 7 in the right hand at the top. So that's how you can make a 7 chord. Or if you want to make an even brighter chord, you can throw that 2 in there or the 9, and that's how you get that 9 chord. And I think that's a really, really sweet chord that you can play. But in my right hand, I guess you can kind of think of it as just playing a C sharp minor 7 chord over an A. And that's how you can get an A major 9. So that's just a little bit of my tips of ways that I'm continuing to broaden my chords and my playing. And yeah, so you can just take that theory, and you can, once you get better, you can start walking up with your scales. Then you can start with your triads. I know I've made a video on this. It's called Importance of Scales. I did it in C. I basically just did a breakdown in many different ways of how I can play my scales and how you can play your scales as well. So you can, on the 1, the 2. Now you can either play a 1 over 3 here, or you could just play the minor 3. So you can 4, the 5, the 6. Now I typically never play the diminished 7. I'll typically just play a 5 chord in my right hand over the 7 and then back to the 1. But the more advanced way, if you really like these type of chords, those type of A major 9-13 chords, what I try to practice sometimes, and I can do it in every key now, is that's the 1, and then you're basically just doing all 7 chords. So the 1, the 2, because the 2 is minor, the 3, the 4, the 5. Now, when I do the 4 and the 5, I typically don't just do, that's why I kind of hesitated there. I typically don't just do the regular 7. Like, I'll do just regular 7 chords on the 2 and the 3, but the 1, I'll do that 9-13, 2, 3. Now, on the 4, I typically will do another 9-13 chord on the 4, and the same thing with the 5. I'll typically do another 9-13 chord, but when I get back to the 6, I'll just go back to that minor 7 chord. And then for the 7 chord, what I'll do is I'll just play that same shape in my right hand that I had from the 5, and then I'll just add the 7, and then that's how you can get that same chord from that song, that A flat minor 7 11, and then back to the 1, which you can do that. You can do that 9-13. I don't typically like to end songs on that chord because it kind of just sounds, dissonant, and it's not really resolved. So one thing I like to do sometimes is I'll just take that same 1-5 and octave shape in my left hand, and in my right hand I'll just play a 2 or the 9, the 3 or the 10, and then the 1. And we call that a major add 2. So you can do something like an A major add 2, or you can just end on like second inversion, and or you can end in root position, or you can end in the third inversion. And yeah, but I like to typically end on the second inversion, because when I end on the second inversion, I can do a move like this. So yeah, those are just a couple of my tips in ways on how I'm continuing to get better, in ways how you guys can also get better as well. For those of you who watch my videos, these are just a couple of tips that I have to give out. Oh, we don't want to play that chord. There we go. There we go. Let me see. Yep, there it is. And then I believe that's it. Let me see. This is the 7. What did I do wrong? Let me see. Is that the same shape from the 5? Oh no, it's this. There we go. I knew something was wrong. I was like, I'm playing something wrong. I was playing that from the 4. This is what it is on the 4. The 5 is and that's 7, and then back to the 1. And if any of you like this little move at the end, just let me know in the comments, and I can also do a video on that. I was so happy when I finally learned how to do that. I've been wanting to do that for the longest, and I can finally do it in every key. It's a pattern to it, so if anybody wants to know about that, just let me know. But thank you all.